Hi, I'm Jack Sullivan, Director of Training for the Emergency Responder Safety Institute and a retired firefighter. For FDIC 2018, I'll be talking about D-drivers and other hazards at highway operations. We've been talking about this issue for years, and unfortunately in 2017, it seems like the situation's gotten worse instead of better. We see numerous examples every month of various types of emergency vehicles being struck along the highway and while operating at various types of roadway incidents. Engines that are being used for blocking are struck on a routine basis. As of the end of October 2017, I've already recorded 10 line-of-duty deaths for firefighters or EMTs who were struck by vehicles this year. An additional 3 instances of firefighters or EMTs being struck while off-duty while assisting motorists along the side of the highway. That's a total of 13 fatalities in 10 months in just 2017 of firefighters or EMTs being struck and killed by vehicles. We have to work harder to protect our personnel along the highway and at roadway incidents. We know that one of the biggest problems at highway incidents are D-drivers. Those drivers that are drunk, drugged, drowsy, distracted, and just plain dangerous. And because of some incidents that have occurred in the last few years, we also have to add in the categories of disgruntled, disturbed, and disrespectful drivers that we're dealing with at highway incidents also. We'll start by talking about roadway incident response procedures. Standard operating procedures, standard operating guidelines, regional traffic incident management procedures that we know about from around the country, and various things departments have been doing to protect their personnel and their apparatus at highway incidents. NFPA 1500, the Fire Department Safety, Health, and Wellness Standard, has been revised for 2018. It now has an entirely new chapter on traffic incident management. During the presentation at FDIC, we'll talk about what that chapter includes and what it requires your fire department to do to protect your personnel at highway incidents. Standard operating procedures, various types of training, collaborating with the other agencies you work with at highway incidents, how to establish a safe work zone, and how to use fire apparatus for blocking at incident scenes. So NFPA 1500 will require roadway incident safety training for all firefighters going forward. What does that mean and what should you cover when we talk about training for roadway incidents? We'll talk about how to develop hazard awareness for all of your personnel, especially new recruits, how to develop and institute practices and procedures in line with other agencies in your area, how to do a highway scene size-up and provide a good quality first-in report, where and how to place our emergency vehicles. We'll talk about personal protective equipment and when it's appropriate to wear high-visibility garments. We'll talk about communications and terminology and how it's important to have all agencies on the same page using the same terminology. We'll talk about how to set up temporary traffic controls using various types of traffic control devices. Multi-agency cooperation, collaboration, and communication is important, and we'll re-emphasize those areas that we can do better on when it comes to working with other agencies out on the highway. Emergency vehicle placement is one of those areas where there is sometimes disagreement by the various emergency agencies at an incident scene. We'll talk about the best ways to position your emergency vehicles at an incident scene and how to work with the other agencies to set up the scene safely. We'll talk about lane plus one blocking, what its advantages are and why we do it, and how to set up properly at an incident scene. We'll talk about temporary traffic controls and how to set up a taper at an incident scene. Personal protective equipment. Are you aware of the changes in the ANSI standards that relate to emergency personnel's high visibility garments? We'll talk about what those changes are and how it might affect the PPE that you purchase for your department. We'll make sure that it's clear when it's appropriate to wear high visibility PPE and when you should just be wearing NFPA compliant turnout gear, especially when dealing with fire situations along the highway. And over time, we've learned of various fire departments trying different types of emergency vehicle innovations to help make scenes safer while working on the highway. And we'll talk about how some fire departments have been successful applying for grant money to retrofit existing emergency vehicles for more protective measures while working out on the highway. So these are just some of the things that we'll talk about when we get to FDIC 2018. I hope you'll join me when we talk about D-drivers and other hazards at highway operations. In the meantime, stay smart, stay safe, and watch your back out on the highway.